2023, 5:32 p.m. This is the ACT Committee meeting with myself, Nick Allen, Brian McGinnis, and Patrick McCoy. Item number 1 is to call this meeting to order. Item number 2 is comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items not on the agenda. Alrighty, seeing none, we're good to move on to 3A, which is our IT quarterly report.
Okay, here's our quarterly report. So I try to do these every 3 months. What I do want to note here is this past month, we added that word security to my title. I think everyone would agree that cybersecurity is becoming much more important and a continuing challenge for us. So I think that's important. So you'll see CISO reports, that's Person CI reports. Some of the projects that we're working on throughout the year, of course, our website refresh is done. Our data, which is our enhanced disaster recovery, is done. That's the last one. I'll touch on that just for 1 second. That will allow us, let's just say during this roofing project, the building just falls apart. Let's hope that never happens. We could spin up and run our servers remotely anywhere over the cloud. Plus, it backs up the data locally and in the cloud. We're still trying to finish up our two-factor authentication upgrade. We're still finishing up the redundant phones in dispatch. Some testing going on there. We're also still testing our data inspector. This is the service through Barracuda that's looking for PII information in our email and in our data. We just ordered our new servers, our virtual hosts. So hopefully in the next month or so, we can receive them and start working on those. Decision consideration. Now, this is something I'll mention real quickly is the acoustical treatment. If you look around, you're going to see some acoustical treatment panels sitting around. They're not going to make any difference, I don't think, just these 4 or 5, but it kind of gives you an idea of the type of acoustical treatment, which would be hanging on the walls around these things. And actually 2 would be hanging on the dais above, in front of you, because that's actually not really good for the sound, what's there. So we have some consideration. Sean and I need to talk about it because there's a great price range for various reasons. And I just wanted to talk about, do we go small and work our way up, or do we go big? And I would suggest we go small and save some money and see what we can do, you know, and kind of work our way up. So we got some decisions to make there. And of course, we continue to assist Nick and his department on Cardiograph, which is the asset management for public works and wastewater, and Brightly, which is the property information system. Unscheduled events are never good. That's why I have a sad face up there. Past couple months, there's only really been 3. A couple Microsoft ones, which really did not impact the organization too much, and one which has really been a pain in my side for the past 2 or 3 weeks, and that is one of our firewalls failed. No one really knew this because we had a backup, but what we also didn't realize, we run an older version. Our hardware was 3 years old, so we're replacing all the hardware and rebuilding these from, you know, so which is good. We're getting all new hardware, but it's a big process because you have to do this while not interrupting services. And the big pain point is the police, because they're 24/7 dispatch and police. So we really have to go out of our way to work around that. So that's causing us some work, but we're getting close to finishing that up. And these are just smaller initiatives. I just kind of note some of these each month. These are things that we do. They're not projects. They're not help desk tickets. They are things that come to us for all kinds of reasons that don't include those. And I have a couple of things to highlight that are yellow. I'll just kind of mention real quickly. We added a new DVR, which is for some cameras in administration and parking. We installed 19 iPads, which we are in the process of deploying for the Cardiograph project. That month, we set up 5 new employees, working with HR with a PII policy, assisting the parking department, trying to identify what we're going to do with these emergency service call boxes that they have at the parking garages. We also are installing some new cabling and some new cameras at the Snyder Avenue wastewater plant. I just like to touch on these because these are things that aren't tickets. These are things that we just kind of get assigned to and we kind of try to get them done. We installed many new cameras over at Snyder Avenue's wastewater garage. We actually installed an access camera solution in the server room, which can now manage like the wastewater plant, that's managing the wastewater plant, the public works department, and some cameras in the municipal building outside of what the police do. Much less expensive solution. So I'm really proud of that. Let's get back to the, and of course, we completed some software upgrades on the existing servers to prepare us to migrate to these new servers. Exciting stuff. Everybody's excited. Might just be me. So each month we do help desk tickets, and these are the day-to-day things that all the employees in the organization will put a ticket in. Something's not working. They need help with a piece of software. All kinds of every organization has help desk tickets. These are very basic everyday things, but they're very important to the staff. This is how we interact with them. So we've done 340 of those in the first 5 months. I also note that only about 70% of the tickets we do get put into the system. An employee has to go in and either send us an email to the help desk email address or go into the portal and create a ticket. A lot of times that doesn't happen. They will end up in your office saying they need help. So we try to get them into the system, but I would say 3 out of 10 don't make it. So that number should be higher, trust me. Cybersecurity. So this is the first 5 months. I think these numbers are kind of cool. So the first one, impersonation response, that is Barracuda doing its work with AI and trying to automatically stop phishing and malware. It does a really good job, but we go a step further in the IT department is where we literally check everyone. We don't trust them. It's funny when they notify us that they have stopped it, they say, well, what do you need to do? This email says, what do you need to do? You don't need to do anything. Well, we have gone in there and found that they don't always get them all. So we go in and double check. And then the second one, which I'm really proud of, that's very often self-reported by staff or IT finds it, and because we check a couple times a day. So every time staff reports these things, I'm very proud because they're self-reporting, they're being cautious, and they're thinking about this. That number 2 one, that's where you get in trouble usually with these ransomware attacks where staff clicks on an email that they should not do. Account takeover doesn't happen very often, but we've had one where someone tried to hack into someone's account from Mexico in this case. They weren't able to get in. Barracuda saw that, stopped it, and we were able to clean that up. We do this once a month, and we do like automated send out phishing test messages to staff. The last one, if you saw my monthly report, I think I sent it to like 142 people, and like 1 person clicked on it. And what I do is I follow up with that 1 person. It's a police employee, just so you know. It wasn't regular staff. It usually isn't regular staff. They do a really good job. But that's really important because that's continual training, and they're always on the alert for that. And then, of course, Jeff and I meet every Friday, just talk cybersecurity. Like I always say, it's my favorite time of the year, favorite time of the week. And then here we go. This is just some training. I try to continually go to training for cybersecurity and so forth. I got a couple of big ones coming up in August and October that I'm excited about. Yeah, and I'll finish up on the IT budget. I'll just say it's trending as expected. Keep a very close eye on each line item. So there's our budget. Looks really good, I'll have to say. Any questions about anything? I'm exhausted.
Yeah, any questions?
No.
Any public comments or questions on that? Seriously, thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Keep us afloat. So thanks so much. I appreciate it. All right, I think we're good then to move on to item 3B, which is unfortunately to talk about our voting wards once again.
So where things stand today is that the Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts denied the borough's petition for the voting ward boundaries that were approved by council and approved by the Chester County Courts in January of 2023. The reason cited was that the proposed ward boundaries do not coincide with municipal district justice boundaries. So on the handouts I gave the committee, and there's a couple available on the desk up here, I don't have anything to put up on the screen. We do have some tools and some maps we can use, and Nick has been very helpful. Nick Fink has been very helpful in creating those tools for us to use to figure out this problem. But for the handouts I handed out tonight, A1 is a map of our existing ward boundaries as they are today, as people will vote in the general election this year as well. Nothing's changing. We will not put these ward boundary changes in place. Voter Services will not put these in place until next year's primary at the earliest. And next year is a presidential election, so it's best that we get started as soon as possible on doing that. And because turnout's usually typically high on presidential elections. A2 is a map of our changes that we worked through last year and submitted for approval to Voter Services and the court. I won't go through all of that. That was talked about all last year in an effort to balance population counts and also to not create wards that disenfranchise non-white voters in accordance with the ward system that was established in the mid-'80s. So being compliant with those two measures, this was the map that Borough Council forwarded to the courts and the courts approved. However, map A3 shows you in the crosshatched areas where we have essentially voters in a voting ward voting in more than one municipal district race. And that is the problem. You can't go to vote at your poll and have your workers try and figure out which ballot you need, whether you need one for District 04 or District 01. That's the basic problem. So we asked to see if that could be handled or addressed by the court and Voter Services. We were told no, which is went back to the drawing board, and map A4 is the beginning of this process where we used a ward districting algorithm. Nick Fink could explain it better than I, where we were looking for contiguous ward boundaries, balanced ethnicity and racial counts, compliance with the municipal district justice boundaries. And this is what the computer basically gave us back out. We can tinker with this, but as you can see, it shows that we have two wards, wards 1 and 5 being slightly overpopulated in terms of being 10% above the average, and wards 3, 6, and 7 being slightly below 10% of the average population. The population numbers we're using to figure this out are 2020 census data. As I've said before, not the greatest data to use, but it's the only thing we have. It's not good data, in my opinion, because it was collected during COVID, and Westchester Borough's population is undercounted. That's just a fact. We looked at a lot of blocks I'm using that as a term for census geography in Ward 4 and in Ward 4 and in the second ward, and we saw a very noticeable difference in student population counts in areas where we knew there was student housing. So that's why we got undercounted. So we're doing what we can to address that issue. That's a separate issue, but this is the best data we have. This is one solution we put forward. We do have some tools that Nick developed to help tinker with these if you want. And I would mostly like to hear the committee's opinion on this proposed ward map A-4 that I've made copies of for the committee, and a little bit about how you would like to go forward process-wise. We can schedule time to look at this in a smaller group where we can get around a screen, or we can do whatever you want to move this forward. But I do think we should move with some speed, and we've done this before, so we should know what we're doing.
Yeah, thank you for the update. Yeah, I really appreciate the background on that. I think it makes sense kind of what we're up against here. It would have been nice to know about this beforehand, so we could have thought about this during our prior meetings. I'm happy to meet again to consider this map. I think the algorithm did a pretty good job getting us to a good starting place, though, and I think that's pretty encouraging. Are there any questions or concerns about what's before us today?
I guess the only question I guess I pose this to Mr. Metric is regarding that court case. You couldn't have more than 10% deviation. And regarding the new map, based upon the amount of court cases going into the district justices, that is going to violate that court case. So how do we go about that proposal with the courts for this map for A4?
I think we can tinker with it, but you are absolutely right that that's the problem we are faced now. We have another geographic rule to contend with that has nothing to do with population. The district justice boundary was drawn to balance caseload. Has nothing to do with population. Wherein when we're trying to establish fair voting ward boundaries, we're entirely interested in population counts and demographic information. So yeah, it's going to be really hard to divide up the population in district justice boundaries 01 and 04 equally, or in some way that meets the other standards. So I think this might be a do the best job we can kind of scenario.
And to be fair, right, we had the same issue last time where we were in violation and we had a good reason to be, and they approved it before. It was just another guideline that we were unaware of, right? So I feel like if we do the same thing again, I imagine we should be okay. There any other questions or thoughts about this one?
If we were to just leave it, which was our first preference, to leave it as it is, what's the difference in the plus or minus 10% for the various wards?
We could figure that out.
It's a good question. Any other questions or concerns on this one? We'll have a lot of fun doing this again, I'm sure.
End up leaving it the way it is.
Yeah, after all that. Great. I appreciate the update again. I think we're good then to move on to 4A, which is to approve our minutes, which I had no
Nick,
issue with.
may I just
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
suggest
Sorry about that.
we can give that, we can report on that answer to that question to council next Tuesday. We get take council's temperature on what council wants to do. Like I said, I want to get this resolved either this month or next, or as soon as possible.
I'm fine with that.
Great, sounds good. Any issues with the minutes? All right, we'll approve that 3-0. Is there any other business this evening? Yeah, come on up.
Hi,
Hey, how are you?
So I'm Megan Fork. I'm a resident of the borough in the southeast quadrant, and I'm here as a representative of the Goose Creek Alliance, which is a nonprofit watershed organization around Goose Creek. I met last week with Sean, Will, and Dawn to kind of talk to them about this, and I sent them stuff that I trust they've forwarded on to you. I'm here to ask the borough for a letter of support for a DEP Growing Greener grant that our organization is planning to submit the end of the month. We're writing this grant to help fund a watershed action plan for Goose Creek. So this is something that would do some research about kind of what, like, I trust that we're all familiar with some of the issues around on Goose Creek regarding the flooding, regarding the water quality. And this effort would pull together existing data from across the townships and the borough to help describe the problem, help point to sources, and importantly, kind of help point to shovel ready, do designs and point to shovel ready projects for this. So this is distinct from some of the work that the borough is already doing, managing stormwater, in that we're really thinking about this across municipalities because, as you know, the watershed spans across municipalities, and trying to prioritize projects that we think will make the biggest impact and have the greatest likelihood of success kind of across the whole watershed. So I've sent kind of a template draft of a letter of support that sort of describes basically it says, hey, the borough thinks this is a good idea and it's distinct from what we're already trying to do, for the reasons that I kind of just articulated, but I would love any questions that you have.
Sure. So thank you first for all the work that you do. So it looks like we're also, as a borough, are already doing similar work. So my question, I guess, for administration is there a good way that we can combine our efforts on this to make everything happen? Is this going to be a kind of thing where we're competing for grant money, or can we get it all?
Yeah, I think you're clued into the one concern I had. Would we be competing for the same dollar? And the borough has applied for already through Going Greener for a bricks and mortar project at Lacey Street. It's a stormwater management project. So in that sense, we aren't applying for the same kinds of work. We're going bricks and mortar, whereas this is going to be a planning effort and a multi-jurisdictional planning effort. I like the possibilities of partnering and understanding water quality on the watershed level. We're tending to be focused on administering our stream protection program and also deal with the volume issue, the flooding issues in the lower parts of town. So we did want to talk through any potential conflicts. So I feel pretty comfortable we are aligned, but not overlapping in the sense that we'd be competing.
Sounds good. Yeah. Any questions or
No.
concerns?
No, yeah, I read the documents and it looks like it's complementary in a lot of ways, so.
Great.
But is this something we'd want to talk about at full council next week? Or yeah, I think that'd be great. Yeah, sounds good.
Great.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Is there any other business tonight? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn at 5:55. Thank you.